Ham, ham radio nonsense. I don't know if they caught the first part of that, but
Nonsense!
apparently that's what this show's called, is ham radio nonsense. Hello,
The
everyone.
people have spoken.
The people have spoken. We've got some people rolling into the chat. How are you? Good?
I am fine. It is actually starting to warm up a bit here. I woke up this morning and it wasn't sunny and it wasn't happy. And then all of a sudden the sun came out and the temperature rose and
But you've still got snow on the ground, though.
I do. We had a blizzard Friday night, a literal, legitimate weather alerting blizzard rolled through Friday night. I woke up and my entire driveway drifted in, which is it took me 4 hours to plow enough snow to drive out of the driveway. Not to do anything other than that, just to drive out of the driveway. 4 hours.
Isn't it? Yeah, I thought that. Isn't it spring? It's spring there? So.
Oh yeah.
And
Spring.
so the snow doesn't melt
Nonsense.
until the snow doesn't melt until the middle of summer. Then.
There has been something going on. I don't know. I think it's the solar cycle. The solar cycle's starting to pick up, so the weather's starting to pick up.
Yep. We'll blame the solar cycle.
Well, I mean that's where the weather comes from.
Yeah. Let's so we're talking today about newbie ham radios if you're a beginner, because I've received a lot of questions lately in lots of different channels about, hey,
This
I'm
one's easy.
interested in hey, I'm interested in ham radio, what should I begin with? And it's like, this is a really easy question to answer. So
You won't like the answer, but it's a really easy question to answer.
yeah, yep. So I guess the answer to the question is it depends. That's
Yes.
probably the main one. So
No matter what radio you get as your first radio, you will outgrow it rapidly. And that's because
quickly.
you just got very, very smart. You just learned something that you didn't know yesterday.
yep. So in using we could kind of use the US as an example, because the entry level license here and is a little bit different. But over there, you're kind of restricted to, you're restricted to 10 meters and above. And for your
For
first,
tech.
for technician. So if you've just passed your license or you're looking to pass your license, then you're probably going to be obviously going for technician. You're probably not going to be looking at a HF radio because 10 meters, although at the moment is going really well, but it's probably not the ideal band to start on. I don't know. That's probably, I mean, that's
What
just
makes
my
you say
opinion.
that? Expand
Well,
upon that.
I would say that because it probably is a decent band to start on, because if you've come from like 27 megahertz CB, you'd be very familiar with what can happen on 10, although a little bit more quiet than CB. But I was thinking more when people start here with foundation license, they start on like 40 meters or they start on 80 meters, which is more predictable and it's, more, I was going to say popular, more people on it, more chance of contacts, you know what I mean? But I guess over there it's kind of VHF and UHF. Like everyone seems to get HT, don't they?
Everybody gets an HT out of the gate and they don't even know why they need it. And then they find out immediately that either A, they spent way too much money and have no idea how to use it. Like $500 or $600 for an HT is kind of crazy. Or they spent way too little and everybody criticizes them, like $25 for a Baofeng.
One of these.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
Both are good. Both work.
they do both work. And there are some links in the description below too to some cheap ham radios. If you actually go to Amazon and you put in, let me just bring it up.
Cheap ham radio.
If you actually put in cheap ham radio, let me turn off the filter rather. This is kind of the first thing that everyone who's starting will come across. They'll have a flood of all these different radios with, DMR, 10 watt, blah, blah, blah. And it's like there's quite a lot here to unpack, really, isn't it, if you're just scrolling through Amazon?
Yeah, and why would I spend $200 on a handy walkie talkie when I can spend $200 on a mobile radio? I don't
without knowing what features one might have over the other, or what bands one might have over the other,
Right.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
Let's not even talk about power output. That's a lie.
That's very controversial, isn't it?
Well, like
I
that
noticed a
BTEC
lot of
Mobile
these-
right there, $50, or the Baofeng handy talkie is $50 with all the accessories. Which one would you get and why? I mean, it's a nightmare. Short answer is yes. Get one.
25-watt mobile radio. I've just noticed this is actually a question on the test. Don't use a cigarette lighter plug to power your radio.
Which it's not the right answer either, because you can. I don't know
Well, you
about for a
can.
25 watter, but for a 10 watt, no problem whatsoever.
If you keep under the current, you will. I actually think that's in the question. It says HF transceiver, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's lots of different radios here that people can use to choose from. I guess what's sort of a piece of advice for the advice that I usually say to people when they're asking what radio should I buy, I kind of do push them a little bit in the HT direction, but I usually put a caveat on it and say, look, do you live out in the middle of nowhere, or do you live in the city or somewhere where there's a chance of a repeater? Have a look on Repeater Book, or have a look online on the directories to try and find if there's a repeater in your area, and if there is, then you can safely go and get yourself an HT. And also too, if you know that you've got other ham radio operators nearby, like if someone's taught you the hobby or something like that, then you can, at least you'll have someone to be able to communicate with.
Yeah, so I kind of give the same results. I say for a handy talkie, pick what your local repeater is using. If you've got a Yaesu System Fusion, get like an FT70D that does fusion. If you have a DMR, get a BTEC 6x2 that does DMR. If you've got D-Star, get a ID51 or something that does D-Star, because then you'll be able to do all the things that all your friends can do. But then outside of that, like, where do you go? Like, there's too many options.
Max makes a good comment here saying, recommending HT for cost only, because as we know that the cost of entry into this hobby can sometimes be exceedingly high. The key is to mentor after. Exactly. So, I mean, I didn't start with a HT, but my circumstances were a little bit different because I lived in an area where there wasn't a repeater. And I knew that it was, I didn't know. People explained to me and said, you're not going to get much range here. You're not going to be able to talk to anybody, sort of thing. So that's why I went for HF. But if you manage to pass your tech and then you go and you sit your general and you pass your general, then you can go ahead and get a HF radio. Something like an FT891 or an IC7300 or something like that. Those kind of radios are probably good beginner starter radios.
They are indeed.
MI7
I have 9
DJT. 9 HTs. I've only got 4. I think I've got 4. You'll have more than me, won't you, Tio?
I don't know. Maybe. I
think the
tried to get rid of them too. I tried to give them away.
I was going to say, I've never seen anyone with more HTs than Jason from Ham Radio 2.0. He's just
I don't know. Kate MRD in the chat. He might have more than Jason does.
Oh, yes. That's true. We should have a HT off between Jason and Mike and see how many there are.
Yeah, so Simon's got a good
FT8
point
no.
there. Yeah.
Actually, that's probably right. I just rattled that off the top of my head.
It's a good radio. That's not. So there's a difference between a good radio and a good beginner radio.
Yeah. Yep. I was probably thinking, what's the... I was thinking 991, not 891. 991. Shack in the
991
box.
is a good radio because you'll be able to get it. It will do a lot of stuff for you. It has just about everything that you need. Decent power, waterfall display, audio, sound cards, microphone. It can be portable if you wanted it to be. It can be a desk radio at your ham shack at home. I wouldn't really install it as a mobile, but I mean, you could. And it's going to get you on the air easily.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking 991, not 891.
Yeah.
Because that and the 7300 seem to be good good start. Because someone like, hey, I don't know what band I should operate on. What's the best radio to buy? And I'm like, just get like a Shack in the Box, and then you can decide what you like best. If you like operating on HF and you're never on VHF and UHF, then you get something else that's just an HF radio. So Mike's got 20, and Ron says that he's bragging. So
he uses them all at once too.
Although I would say that Randy from Not a Rubicon probably has quite a few more in the background of his videos. He's got lots and lots and lots of HTs, but I need to give away some of mine as well. We have quite a few scouts that pass their license, and it's one of the first things that they go and do is they'll go and they'll grab a Baofeng or something like that. So I think we should give away a couple of radios to the scouts so that they can get on there.
Sure, yeah.
Clinton, I'm a brand new technician. I have a Baofeng. I bought it before I knew QRZ gave out an HT to new hams. I'm getting one of those, and I've got a 25-watt Endertone mobile. It was all I can afford. Yeah. The QRZ that's been extended, hasn't it, till the end of June? I think.
I believe so. Yeah, and they'll probably extend it again, or somebody else will pick up the slack.
It seems to be a good program that they've run there. So.
It's a good radio too.
What radio is it? It's the QRZ1.
QRZ1 Explorer. I forget who makes
it.
Yeah, I forget who makes it.
Yeah, okay.
But we tested it. It has good power output. It's been tested, analog simplex from the top of a mountain. It's been tested parachute mobile. It's been tested on a spectrum analyzer. It's totally a good deal.
And how does it look on the spec end? Is it clean?
Clean. Very clean.
Clean,
yeah, FEP
clean,
Labs Radio did
clean.
a video on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just surprising. I mean, you wouldn't expect a giveaway radio to be as clean as this. And I would say it's probably on par with like a $60 or $80 radio.
Paul says first radio was a Baofeng 8, then an 891, now the 991. There we go. So I learned that the 891 was not as good, not as intuitive.
And have you learned your lesson?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. I put this, of course, if you've seen this video on my channel lately about this radio, I put this on the spec end the other day, and the second harmonic is not quite within spec.
Oh.
It's a few dB off. Ringwire, actually, it's probably true. I forget how many. Lewis has got lots of HTs, but he doesn't use them, and he said that to me the other day, so I can say that.
Well, you can only use one at a time.
That is true. That is very, very true.
Maybe two if you're pushing it.
But here's a question, because I'm not 100% across part. Is it part 97? Part 97. Yeah. When they do the spurious emissions measurement, is it from the antenna port without the antenna connected, or is it measured with the whole assembly, so with an antenna on top?
From a distance. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good
because,
question. Where is the emissions result taken?
Because I sort of thought about this the other day, and I thought, well, because this radio was about, I think it was, what did I had of it? I think it was about 4 dB off being down to the, what was it, 56 dB below the fundamental, because it's got to be it can't put out more than 25 microwatts, which to me is at the port 25 microwatts at the port on any other spurious, any other harmonic. But as soon as you attach an antenna that's not in the band of that actual harmonic, then all of a sudden the output is going to be much less being radiated, if you know what I mean, because the antenna is not resonant for that frequency. So, yeah, it's one of those things that I'm just not. It's a bit of a grey area, but anyway, I'm sure it's out of the port, and that's where they do the measurements. And what do you and a lot of people who buy Baofengs are concerned about: do I get the one that's clean? Do I get the one that's that's not clean? The one that's clean is the GT5R, which you can get from a lot of places. But
Are you saying that every single UV5R is dirty, period?
no, it's not. And in actual fact, this is not a UV5R, but this is an S9. This is an S9 Plus. I put this on and I was actually surprised that this is clean. So
And if I just grabbed a generic UV5R something, UV5R3, UV5R Plus, UV5R2, UV5RB, whatever they all are, just across the board, they're all dirty, or is it kind of like give and take and you don't know which one you're getting until you test it, or how does that fall?
that's a good question. I guess it's the newer ones that I've seen are fine. So like the 3s and the ones that are sold by like BTEC and Radio Oddity and stuff like that. But the older ones, or the ones that you'd probably get off just eBay, off random sellers, are still the older model, and they're dirty. That's my understanding, which might be incorrect. Lewis has got 200. Goodness me.
I don't think he's exaggerating.
What you need to do with a video with that is you need to line them all up in a row, and you need to use one transmitter to key them all at the same time at maximum volume. I'd be interested. That'd be a cool video. But yeah, who was that? I was talking to, I think it was Ria the other day, and we were talking about the UV5R. She's got one which is dirty all the way up to like the gigahertz band, so they use that to test their receivers up at the gigahertz bands. But I think that's an older one.
So you're saying she's transmitting on 2 meters and she's hearing it on 10 gigahertz?
I don't think it's on 2 meters, it's on 440.
Okay.
So third harmonic
that's crazy.
1.2 gigs. Yeah, there's someone here there's someone that I know too that does that. So they are the dirty ones. So yeah. So I guess once you get away from HTs, you sort of that's when you're sort of getting serious, right?
Yeah. I mean, so we start with either the $25 Baofeng or the one that your local repeater uses, and then from there we sort of spread our wings and fly. And that's where that 891 question came up a little bit earlier.
We've done videos before and live streams before comparing with chips, comparing radios before,
Yeah.
so you can go back and have a look at those. There's a couple of more popular ones. We didn't do the 7300 versus the 991 on the chip-o-meter, did we? So
Yeah, that's a tough one. The 7300 wins it on looks and feel, and the 991 wins it on having 2 meters and 70 centimeters.
Yeah, and it's pretty much just basically those two, isn't it? It's just between those features. It's depends on what you want. Do you want a shack in the box, or do you just want to operate HF? So, because there's and for those who are watching this for the first time and don't know what radios we're talking about, because we rattle these off all the time. This is an ICOM IC7300, probably behind the Baofeng, the most popular radio of all time, maybe.
Yeah, yep. That's a good radio. That's a good starter radio, too. It's got a relatively intuitive user interface. You'll get up to speed with it really quick.
Yep.
Just remember to touch everything.
Inbuilt sound card. It's got, waterfall display, as you said, touch screen. It's got an inbuilt tuner. So it's got a lot going for it. And then the FT991, which is very, very similar. I don't know how I can bring up the product gallery. Very, very similar. A little bit different menu structure than the ICOM. Personally, I think the ICOM's a little bit more intuitive, but everything the same. Sound card. The only thing that this has over the other is you have 2 meters and 70 centimeters extra into it.
Yeah.
So, that's not a concern for some people because they don't want to do 2 and 70 with a big rig like that.
What's really funny is that radios are not comparable, though. Like, you can't take... I mean, we did this. You can't take the 991 and the 710 and the FTDX10 from Yaesu and say, this is the lowest on the ladder, this is the next step on the ladder, this is the third step on the ladder. spend accordingly. It's like this one has features that this one doesn't, that this one does, that this one doesn't, that this one does it, and you have to come up with this kind of matrix in your head, and then figure out where you want to compromise to get the radio that you want to have.
And let's not even start on price either. So
Yeah.
price can vary quite a bit, because we found that with a couple of those Yaesu radios, the price varies depending on which one you get. The other difference too is the 991 being C4 FM Fusion, Yaesu's version of digital, and then ICOM has D-Star. So those two differences as well. But yeah, you're right. It's one of those things you could spend an age trying to find which radio you want to actually.
Yeah, just buy one, enjoy it, turn around and sell it when you're tired of it.
Well, that's the other thing with used ham radios as well, is that they keep their value very well. So so sometimes like, too well.
Yeah, like legitimately, don't look at the price tag of a 7300 as $1,000. Look at the price tag of a 7300 that for the next 3 to 5 years, that radio will cost $100, because you'll turn around and sell it for somewhere between $800 and $1,100, depending on what's going on in the world at the time.
Which is enough to be able to fund your upgrade or your sideways trade or something like that.
Right.
Simon's got an interesting comment here talking about the FT818, because here in Australia and also in the UK, we have the entry-level license limited to 10 watts. So that's why these radios such as the FT818 and the 705 over my shoulder are pretty popular, because they say, I only need 10 watts, but it's also one of those things where you do need to look to the future. If you ever want to upgrade, you're going to be stuck with a radio that doesn't do that output power more than 10 watts. The 818 also, you've used one of those before. The screen is tiny. It's really hard to...
The whole radio is tiny. The screen is really huge tiny compared to the size of the radio.
And the radio is, that's good, because that's what it's designed for, is a small portable QRP radio. But it's, as a first radio, it's you need some decent magnifying glasses, I think, to read some of those menus.
Yeah. Well, there's also not that many menus in that radio either. That I think is a good radio from Yaesu, because it doesn't have a lot of features, therefore it doesn't have a lot of menus, it doesn't have a lot of size, therefore it doesn't have a lot of. I mean, it's like it is exactly what it needs to be, and then like, oh my god, it's got every band,
And if you want proof that they're indestructible, then go to Peter VK3YE's channel, because he uses them on the beach and everything, and he actually he gets comments saying, clean your radio out, you've got too much sand in your radio.
So he did a video on that, and there's no sand in it.
No, there's no sand. But
he's getting every dollar's worth out of that radio.
He definitely is. So Dan makes a very good point too. His first radio was an RTO SDR. You don't need to transmit.
No.
If you haven't got your license yet, then get a software defined radio. And they're like, well, the price of an SDR is probably the 3/4 of the price, maybe at the price of a Baofeng, I would say.
Yeah, $25 for a no transmit, listen to everything radio. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, you get the wide receive. So Ben, hello Ben. Love the 7300. So we got a comment here that starred.
The 7400 is a shack in the box. It is a black and white screen, no waterfall, no sound card radio. It's a nice rig, and to upgrade, if you upgrade either to the 7300 or the 7610, you're not going to be disappointed, but you will lose the 2 meter side. You'll gain the built-in sound card. You'll gain the waterfall. The 7300 has an easier to understand interface because it's not 2 radios in one box. You're losing out on a lot of buttons. The 7610, I think, has most of those buttons back, if I remember right.
Yep. The 7610's, the menu structure compared to the 7300, I think, is just a little different. It's very, very similar, but it's a little different. You also get the external display out if you have a nice, cool shack and you want to hook that up to a screen. It's also got the inbuilt server as well, so it's a lot easier to remote, because with a 7300 you need a PC to be able to remotely control it. And then when you do remotely control it, if you use the ICOM software, then the waterfall's really slow because of the restrictions
On the
using the
7300.
USB. Yeah, but with the 7610, it's got an inbuilt server, and you don't need to worry about all that. You literally just plug an Ethernet cable in, and that's it.
I really think that ICOM should have. So there's the 7300, the 9700, the 7610, and the 705, and all four of those are relatively similar but wildly different radios. There's no real comparison. The 705 is 10 watts and does some of what the 9700 does, some of what the 7300 does. The 7610 does all of what the 7300 does, plus a little bit extra, but has a completely different user interface to it. Different enough that you're going to notice it, but not different enough that you can't live with it. So like, it's not like it's a one step up. It's not like I went to McDonald's and I got the extra value meal and I supersized it. Like it's not one step up. It's like one step over, two steps up, three steps down, go around the back, and then you have a new radio. I don't get it. And we've done this before, yeah.
Danny says, can 2 and 70 be added to 7300 such as a mod? The mod is the 9700. So
right.
Which is a completely new radio.
And that's a quad band, isn't it?
Tri-band. Because it's 270
1.2
23. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it might have 220, but it doesn't.
No.
But the 9700 has the server built in. And the 7300 doesn't.
And with the 9700, you're starting to step up with, you're getting serious with 2 and 70, like 100 watts on 2, 75, I think, on 70. 75? Might be 100 on 70. And then 10 watts on 23. Because in the past, you would get some of those other radios, such as the IC910 or the Kenwood TS2000, and 1.2 would be a module that you'd have to buy. It'd be a separate module. Whereas with this radio, they just put it all in the box, and you're good to go.
So I mean, yeah, the 7300 plus a couple of transverters gives you a not so great experience. It's better to have the 7300 and the 9700, but it would be better if the 9700 had the exact complementary feature set of the 9700, the built-in server and so on. But it doesn't.
Mike says, have a friend loan you a 7610. Mike, you're my friend. Can you please loan me your 76? It's a long way to loan, but I actually don't have anyone nearby that's got a 7610. It would be nice. It's the only thing I haven't done is I haven't spun the dial on a 7610. I should have done that when I was at ICOM Australia's headquarters when I was there recently. I don't think they had one on display. Cornbread says, best radio is the one that you can afford on the bands you can work from a reputable source and never sell anything. That's actually one thing we didn't cover. If you do go and buy radios such as these, which are the cheap $20 radios, don't expect them to have any warranty whatsoever, or if it gets lost in the mail or it doesn't show up or it turns up and it's not what you expect, that is a risk that you'll have to take due to the price of such a radio. Whereas if you're buying from a reputable company that's known in the ham radio space, ICOM, Yaesu, or from a dealer, they'll offer warranties as well. So like,
right, but a $25 Baofeng, you really can't go wrong with it. You will get $25 worth of excitement out of it. I mean, like compared to the price of taking a friend out to the movies, that's $20 for an hour and a half worth of entertainment. And I mean, like,
I like this analogy.
Kind of put it into perspective there. You get a radio and you talk to your friends for 3 or 4 weeks and you learn that it doesn't do all the things that you want. Okay.
What's better value?
I don't consider that bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with today's movies. Don't go to the movies.
No.
Come here and watch YouTube live streams.
Yeah, exactly. Watch us instead. We don't, I don't know if you have over there, we've got a thing called Gold Class in the movies, which is where you go into it's like a lounge which you get your food waited to you while you're in the movies and you order everything and you get to waited on hand and foot when you go to your movies.
We have some theaters like that, but not all of them. It's not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. Depends on what movie it is. Sometimes the food can be better than the actual movie you're watching.
Hard. I'm not a fan of movie theaters.
No, well, I got COVID at the movie theater. I'm 100% sure, so I haven't been back since.
Were you licking the seat in front of you or something?
No, there was just a lot of people there.
Yeah.
What is your recommendation for HF Mobile?
That's a tough one. I don't actually do HF Mobile.
Neither do I.
But I
But
think that the combination of like the FT891 with the ATAS antenna is probably like the best experience you'll get. You change the dial, you hit the tune button, and you're on frequency. The other thing that people do a lot is they'll run the 20-meter ham stick during the day and the 40-meter ham stick at night. But you got to stop the car. I'm whining. You have to stop the car, get out, change antennas.
well,
tune
where
them
you
up.
are, that's a problem, isn't it? So
Yeah.
when you got a blizzard outside,
Yeah, it was pretty bad Friday. Yeah.
the well, say I said I don't operate HF Mobile. I kind of do because I've got an FM quad band in the car, so it does cover 10 meters mobile, which is still HF Mobile.
7100 is a good choice.
Yeah, you could do it with there's a lot of monoband HF antennas, but as you say, it's the same old thing though. You got to get out and you've got to change the antenna over. So it depends on if you want to just do it, have the auto tune antenna that's a lot easier.
Instead of calling it a compromise, call it an adventure and enjoy it.
Well, no,
'Cause
is it a compromise or a convenience? Convenience over compromise is probably a good thing.
Well, I mean, like only being able to run one band or something like that is a compromise.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
But so what? No band is better.
yeah.
I think the 7100 is a good rig. Lots of power in that rig. Shack in a box. Good form factor.
Mike is actually correct. I think that actually is the rules. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to sell any radios.
Well, I guess I'm breaking all the rules.
Well, you sold your 7300 recently, didn't you? What was the reason behind that?
I've got a 705 and an amp.
So you've already got what you need. So there's another combination.
And what I did was I sold one radio to make space for another radio to come in and take its place. So right now I have an Elecraft K2 sitting here that is been my next journey, and I've upgraded, improved, and documented that, and that will move on to a new home. And who knows what's going to come in to replace it? I mean, I am an experimenter. I like having fun playing with stuff, and once you've played with it, you played with it.
Yeah. Do you guys have the same problem where you are regarding price fixing across all retailers? All retailers seem to offer the exact goods for the same price. I'll let you answer the US ones, and then I can do
In the US, it's a rule. The manufacturers sell the radios to the distributors. The distributors are required to sell it for no less than the MSRP. They can sell it higher than that, but if manufacturer A gets them and sells them for less than, if distributor A gets them and sells them for less than distributor B, then distributor B gets mad at the manufacturer, and then the manufacturer's got a blah blah. It's a big argument all around. It's not necessarily price fixing because you can sell it for more, but you can't sell it for less. So it's reverse price fixing?
I don't think. I was going to say, I don't think we have that here because I know there's several radios where the RRP is a lot higher than what they're actually selling it for. We have two major retailers in Australia who sell radios, and they both go at each other's throats like nothing else. It's absolutely ridiculous what they do. There's all sorts of accusations that have been thrown around over the last 10, 20 years or whatever. But at the end of the day, the competition between the two is what drives the price down. So all of a sudden you'll see one radio will go on special at one retailer. And I've got no problems with either retailer. One will go on special at one, so then the other one has to then drop their price as well. And at the end of the day, we kind of win because we get the lowest prices that we can. The only people that don't win are the retailers because I know that their profit margins I don't think are very high when they have to do that. So that's a bit of a struggle. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, that's what happens here. So as well, to the best of my knowledge. Can you scan this? Just going through some more of the chat here. What's the best Newbie HFTX RX for a general? HF. So I think it was our opinion was the 7300 or the 991 probably.
My only fear
or the
with
710 or the DX10
is that ICOM, and I don't know how this works because I haven't been a ham long enough. The 891 has been in existence forever. How long? How much more runway does the 7300 have before they replace it?
Yeah, that's true. Let me just have a look and see.
Because I'd hate to recommend it's a solid radio and you will not be unhappy with it. But I'd hate to recommend a radio that's going to go out of production in 6 months. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying I literally don't know.
Did you say the 891 or the 991?
Well, I think the 991 is probably the next one that's slated to go.
So the 891, if we're talking about that, was 2016.
Yeah.
The 991, and I don't know if I don't think I've ever mentioned this before. If you're a new ham, go to this website, RigPix. RigPix has been around for ever and a day.
Website.
It's got just about every single ham radio you know, and it has all the specs, and it's got the photos, and it's got links to accessories, and it's got everything on it. I don't think I've actually mentioned this before on the channel, so that's surprising. But yeah, if you go to RigPix, you can see all of the information that you need here. So the 991 is 20. No, that's not the A. I want to go back to the A. So here's the look at all these. Look at all these radios. Goodness me. 991A, 2016, same year.
Yeah.
7300, 2016. So yeah, they're all getting on 7 years.
Yeah.
And the lifespan of a radio is, I don't know what it is, but it's probably pretty close to that.
Well, right now we've got all kinds of parts shortages and stuff. So if you go and try and buy a 7100 from ICOM, which is their current mobile radio shack in a box deal, you can't get it delivered. You have no choice but to buy it used.
And then Yaesu's newest radio, that's probably the other one, because we have compared this. I think the consensus was we said the 710 on price and what it gives you is probably is better than the DX10. Didn't we say that? I think, but
yeah,
when we say better, when we say better, it's they're very similar.
Yeah, the DX10 has a better filter and more buttons and knobs and more price tag to go with it, and you lose the external speaker. But I mean, like the difference is, like I said, it's an over up around the back, 2 steps down, 3 steps forward, $200 more, and at the end of the day, you're still not certain whether you made the right decision or not.
Yep. Steve, this is a good question. Not you, Steve. This Steve. The IC705. What do you think of the IC705? There is nothing like it on the market, except the closest is probably a Zygu X6100.
About half the price, and it's not a shack in the box.
Yep.
And it's not refined.
Yeah. But yeah, the 705. And this is the difference in if you purchase a radio, the purposes can vary from ham to ham. So my purpose for a 705 when I bought it was for my gigahertz transverter operation, my microwave SHF stuff. Whereas for Steve, yours would have been completely the opposite. You wouldn't have used it for that.
Yeah. I don't even know how.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
So
I want to be like Hayden when I grow up.
So what do you mean when you grow? I still got growing. I've still got growing.
You're just ahead of me. You're older than I
am. As a microwave transfer, and then of course I got the side benefit that I got a shack in the box as well, a portable radio that I could use for other things. And for some context, I used an 818. Sorry, not an 818, an 817 before that, and upgrading from a 705 to an 817, it's like chalk and cheese. It's just complete opposite.
It's really funny. I have the 818 and I have the 705 right now, and they're both good radios
They are.
for entirely different, wildly different uses and reasons.
Well, for my purposes, when using the 817, I didn't have a waterfall and I didn't have just stop there, a waterfall. And having that meant that all of the times that I would be tuning, because for the higher frequency bands, sometimes you're not always on frequency and you've got to go searching for the other station because they might be a couple of kilohertz off frequency. Where on an 817, I had to spin the dial up and down and try and find them. And if they were weak, I couldn't tell if they were there or not. With the waterfall, it's easy because I can just see them on the waterfall. There you are. Spin down. Gotcha. And like that is just one thing that made that radio so much better for my purposes. Plus, it's got heaps of other features on it as well. But yeah, the 705 what about as a starter radio? I think it's a good starter radio if you can afford it.
The problem, quote unquote, big quotes, is 10 watts.
Yeah. Yep. But
it's going to be more frustrating of an experience.
But then you fix that with an amp.
Oh, and then you get yelled at for using an amp with a QRP radio.
Actually, that's probably true. We've been going on about new radios. You're probably more invested in putting in your time into an antenna, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed a few people have been putting in what their first radio was. Let us know in the chat what your first radio was if you haven't already done so.
Yeah. My first HF radio was an FT891, and I didn't have the education that I have now. So here's the reason in my mind why the 7300 is a better choice. The 7300 is slightly bigger overall. They weigh kind of the same, I think. The 7300 has the waterfall, the tuner, and the sound card. With the 891, you spend $300 less, but then you buy a sound interface and you buy a waterfall if you want one, and now you're back up to the same price.
Thomas says, still using my IC706. Got it when it first came out. May have to upgrade. I had a 706. Great radio. Might be before your time, Tio.
I've got one.
You got one of these? Have you got the Mark IIG?
I do not have the Mark IIG. Mine only does HF and 6 meters and 2 meters.
So you got the Mark II, I think. Yeah. The 2G was what added 70. Yeah. I had one of these.
Great radio. Good
radio. Gets really hot, though. You need to do the fan mod to it because it does get very, very warm. Just having a look back through some more comments. Dan asked, why do people get mad when you use an amp with a QRP radio? People get mad all the time at all sorts of things.
Right. I was just chatting him back about that. Yeah, it's the ham way of life. What you're doing is absolutely positively wrong, and my way is the right way, and there's just no discussing this. I am right. You are wrong. Period. But I'm different than you are. I don't care. I'm still right.
Norm's got it right. Some hams would say that 100 watts is QRP. You guys would do that because you get 1,500 watts of output power that you can run.
Well, it's funny. I noticed. I put this in the Toads Discord earlier today. I noticed that 5 watts is difficult, 10 watts is less difficult, 20 watts is starting to be passable, 100 watts is easy, and then above 100 watts, I don't notice anything better. There was a situation where I had like a world-class antenna connected to a world-class amp, connected to a world-class radio, talking to someone else. I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Like it wasn't a speaker wire dipole that I made with spit and chewing gum in the basement. Talking to someone else who had a very similar setup. So we're both running 1,000 watts talking to each other. And somebody else comes in the frequency and just starts calling CQ. You can't hear either of the two of us with our 1,000 watt amps talking. We just kept on talking and he went away. Brian, you are wrong.
I'm just trying to get. I was trying to get the Toads Discord invite into the chat. I think that'll do.
That'll do, Hayden. That'll do.
So, well, Brian says, what amp would you use with the 705? Did you just say that? No, you didn't. What amp do you use?
I did not. I use the XPA 125B because it's the amp that I have, and it gets me very close to 100 watts out on all bands. There are better amps that are more expensive.
All bands, all HF bands, right?
All HF bands, sorry. There are better amps that are more expensive. There are not so good amps that are cheaper. The MXP50M is a real popular amp, and it's a 50-watt amp, and it's a little dirty on 20 meters, but it's not $600 either.
Yep. Oh, that's what you just said. Lionel's got first handheld was the Kenwood THD74. I hope you didn't sell that, Lionel, because those things are worth gold now. They're probably worth twice the amount that you actually paid for it.
Right. They're like $800 now for a handheld.
I know, absolutely ridiculous.
But I mean, there's a lot of features in that too.
Yeah. Glenn says the first radio that he had was the IC7000 and still has it. I had an IC7000, the old colour screen. You used to be able to receive analog TV off of that before they switched it off.
Yeah. Well, the non-US 7000s were the ones that had composite video out. So you could get the big screen way back in 1972 when that radio was brand new. I don't know when it was made. 90s-ish, I think.
Which one is that, sorry? The 7000?
The ICOM 7000. It's the 706 with the color screen.
The 7000 was much later. It was like 2006 maybe, 2007, something like that. Yeah. And the color screen, it runs hot. It runs really hot.
I hear they drift a lot too because of that.
They do. We used to call it, so I used to run mine on Whisper, and we used to call it the banana trace radio because the trace on Whisper is supposed to be straight. It would come in on a massive curve because you could see it as the fan ramped up, it would change the oscillator frequency, and then eventually the radio would warm up properly and it would come back in line correctly, but it would never decode properly. UV5R for life.
UV5 Army.
Yeah. Todd, first HT, FT65, first HF is MNY818.
My 818, yeah. That 818's a great radio.
Yeah.
Typing is hard. It's hard for me too.
I guess Dan is correct saying about the geographical issues. Yeah, so 10, 20 watts. Here it'd be a lot different than in the US. It's a lot easier here. Although I say it's a lot easier here, but you've always got someone to talk to. You've got that many hams in your country.
Yeah.
Worldwide might be a little bit different, but rumor has it that the 7000 had the NTSC tuner disabled after too many in the US were caught watching TV while driving. That wouldn't surprise me. I never received analog TV on mine because by the time I bought one, it had been switched off and we'd gone to digital TV.
Yeah.
So
that was a 2000 thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Norm, did you have Dick Smith Electronics in Australia? Yes, Dick Smith Electronics originated in Australia. Brett, congratulations, Brett. I only just passed my foundation license on Thursday. I ain't even got a call sign yet. Is that Australia or UK foundation license? I'm gathering Australia. And if you're waiting on your call sign, you'll probably be waiting a while because of the relevant authority who's in charge of that is a little bit slow. So,
congrats, Brett.
In actual fact, that's because I passed my general the other week and it was just instant. It was really good. So you guys got it really easy over there. We have to still. I'm pretty sure we fill out the paper exam and it gets sent off and graded and takes 2 months to come back to say it's been graded, and then eventually once that's been done, then you can be issued a call sign, which takes another month. Not quite that much, but that's a bit of an exaggeration. Oh, UK. Okay, cool. Excellent stuff. Glenn used to watch Power TV in the car. Oh, here we go. So we've got someone admitted that they used to watch it in the car. When I worked at a TV station, I watch my work for the day. Yeah, cool. So,
hey, Aaron.
New ham radio operators. Yeah. Just, I think, what was the comment before? Buy what you can afford, and you can always upgrade later.
Enjoy your radio.
Enjoy your radio, and don't let anyone else say you shouldn't have bought that. You should have bought this instead.
Right.
And you can say, come to that conclusion yourself. So, to finish off here, I guess, what have you been up to on your channel? Are you you've been doing a few various different things?
Yeah. So I'm like, I mean, if you guys have seen the videos that are coming out on my channel, I probably made those 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is always kind of funny when somebody says, "What are you working on?" Well, what I'm working on, you're going to see in 2 or 3 weeks from now. So it's like, if I tell you that I'm working on an APRS radio on my channel, which is that the Vox Bad video and the APRS and this hole, the two on the right side. I've got another video in that series coming out because I just got the parts to build it. I've got an Elecraft radio I got a year ago that I finally was able to put the SSB module in. Got that working, made some contacts on it. I've got a live stream coming up. I'm trying to get the equipment working to pipe the audio from the radio into the stream so that I can still hear it myself. So, fun stuff.
I can't believe that Morse code got banned as well. That's amazing.
I know, that was crazy. And they released it like Friday night. The news came out Saturday morning. So...
Yeah, so if you haven't heard about that news, then go over to TO's channel and check out that very special report that you did on that. So
yeah, the AFNN.
AFNN. Actually, we may as well let's do a. There we go. Let's put that. We'll put that in the chat so that everyone can go and view that.
There are no bad radios. There are only radios that you wish worked better.
There are no bad radios. I'm trying to think if there are any bad radios.
Well, I mean, like the X6100 is a basket case full of problems, but that's also why it's fun.
We didn't cover this, so we did cover rig picks. Actually, we should cover this eHam. So you have to be careful with this. You use it. I'm trying to think of the right word to say. Use it in a way where don't take everything as gospel. So what eHam is let's just put in eHam IC 7300 because it make it easier for me to find. These are reviews, and these are reviews by other ham radio operators. They give you an overall score, how many reviews, what the average rating is, blah blah blah. If you actually scroll through here, people comment on what they like about the radio, what they don't like about the radio. And most of the time, the lower ratings are the ones by people that say, this didn't work for my purposes, or I don't like this about this radio, whereas this one's better. I wouldn't pay attention to those as much. Have a look at the good ratings and have a look at the stuff that is good. Obviously, if this overall rating here is very low, then definitely keep an eye out on some of the comments because they will be more accurate. But yeah, you'll find a lot of good, useful information. And I usually come to eHam when I'm just about to buy a new radio and I don't know much about it.
I will say that we are very, very spoiled with annual upgrades to our cell phones, but that have amazing new features added every single year compared to ham radio, where you have a radio that lasts for a decade. And then when you do get a new radio that was made just at the end of 2022, it doesn't have an HDMI video port on it.
Oh, you've set me off now. Don't even
Are you
start.
triggered?
Don't even start.
I'm
I
not saying
know that
HDMI or DVI is one's better than the other, but like HDMI is the standard
convenient.
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's not.
It's like
let's not.
beta versus VHS.
And not even that too. We could get not even a full size HDMI port. If space is an issue, just put an HDMI micro on the back or a mini or something. But anyway, let's not and put audio out of it. Audio needs to come out of it too. Let's not talk about that.
Stopped.
No bad radios, just bad operators. Cornbread, the best radio is the one you're using. Exactly.
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We've started the HDMI. We've started the HDMI.
That may be the official answer. It's still BS.
It's
Raspberry.
it's
My
awesome.
$10 Raspberry Pi has an HDMI port on it. I'm pretty sure my $1,200 radio can afford whatever it is that Raspberry Pi's putting out.
Well, I was going to say, didn't we discuss this where we said about obviously the economies of scale are a lot greater with a Raspberry Pi because even though they're cheaper, they sell hundreds of thousands more than they do your standard ICOM radio. But does that dictate the licensing cost? Like, do you pay per unit you sell, or do you just pay a once-off fee for just using it? I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what we came to.
The ham radio supply and demand and economy does not make any sense. Out here, people are buying up snowmobiles like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a used snowmobile that seats one person and doesn't even have heat is $6,000, and people are buying it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have an HDMI port either.
No.
And it's the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, saying concession by the HDMI patent holder. Yeah. I mean, like,
I hope.
Just it's just I think that I don't know whether I'm not a radio manufacturer, but I'm gathering that also a lot of the times you're not going to get a higher resolution out of it either because I don't know how they're taking it's taking the screen resolution because what is it? It's a
800
a
by
low
400
resolution,
or 800 by 480 or something like that. It's
something
really
real
low.
weird like that. So just putting an HDMI port on the back's not necessarily going to give you a higher resolution output, I guess. But yeah, true. See, we've started something at the end of the stream already that we're probably going to have to continue on with somewhere else. Bill says, "What would HDMI be used for in terms of radio? Just the
Two good
an external screen output out of the back of the radio, so you can hook it up to a monitor.
It's
and
fantastic
also
if you're at a club shack and you're operating the radio and you have people standing behind you. They can now look at the big screen that's over there out of the way instead of breathing all over you while you're trying to operate. Or you can do like we do and you can share the screen out while you are doing live streaming on YouTube. And the whole thing is it's a visual display. Yeah, it's a visual display that allows you to show the awesomeness of ham radio in a way that, like, the biggest selling point on the 705 for me is I want to have the thing sitting on my desk at the office at work, which I work remotely, so it doesn't exist. I want to have people walk by and go, "Ooh, what's that thing?" And then hey, let's go talk about this thing. And listen, here's airplanes flying overhead. And here's somebody from China talking on the radio. And now I'm listening to somebody in Chile, that would be neat.
Well, see, I do that in the office, but I run YouTube videos running on a monitor on my desk. So people come by and they're like, "What's going on here? You have your own YouTube channel? Who's that?" "Oh, that's Mike calling on 10 meters. You should go and watch him." So, yeah. Just quickly before we switch off, Andy, have you any videos in a pipeline coming up? I do have a few. I've got to plan a few of them out. I did buy a Signature 9, a Signature 12 actually, but I haven't had time to put it up yet. I was supposed to put it up when weather was a little bit better, and it's starting to crack up again now. But anyway, I will get to that very, very shortly. So just haven't had the time. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. 73. Till next week, we'll talk some more ham radio nonsense. If you've got any suggestions of topics, put them in the comments below, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now. We didn't even dance.